you know he's on top. Million subs, he never gonna flop. Out of Chicago, where the streets don't sleep. Betting on games, making cash real deep. Crystal ball for sports, he knows the lines. He's a sports aficionado, the money he finds. From football to basketball, he's always on point. Predicting winners never disappoints. He's got that hustle, that Chicago vibe. Making moves on the streets, cash on the side. With E, you know it's always a bet. He's the king of the game, never forget.
Hello and welcome to the Etoft21sports Show for April 8th. How is everyone doing? My name is Eric. I'm the man behind Etoft21sports. Absolutely loaded episode for you today. My boy Matt comes on. Him and I are going to share our master bets. Plus, we're going to build you a DFS lineup. But before I get into all that, I'd like to say thank you to the sponsors of the show, Prop Hex. If you're not using Prop Hex, it's honestly the future of sports betting. The peer-to-peer betting exchanges, that's where the industry is going to be going. Download the app, use promo code ETOFT21. That way they know old Uncle Rico sent you. And JustOutTennis.store. Use promo code ETOFT21, 10% off every order. Now, let's see what Gino has a cooking for us in our horse racing bet of the day from Keelan.
Best bet for this week's coming up on Saturday at Keeneland. We're going to go all the way to the last race at Keeneland on Saturday. Now, I know money's going to come through on the 6, Madeline's Promise. The 8, Sherbini, looks like the horse to beat. She's dropping in class. She comes out of stakes races. I thought the number 11, Melamel, interesting because she can sit off the pace. Her win at Gulfstream Park in February was really good. Go through her form. She's only been on the fast dirt twice. One of them came in a win. The other came when she was 4th in a stakes race, and she was just in a little bit too tough last time out. I think she's going to run really well at 20-1 on the morning line. She's a big price. That's the number 11 in race number 11 on Saturday at Keeneland. Best of luck. Make sure to tune in each and every week here for the best info in sports from Erik.
That's my boy Gino. Make sure to give him a follow at It's Me, Gino B. Now let's welcome this week's guest, my boy Matt. Matt, how you doing today, my man?
Good. How's it going?
Be going a lot better if Houston won, man. You know, I was a little bit invested.
Definitely agree with that.
Not as much as you were. It was kind of funny. I was talking to someone on the phone, and I said I kind of feel like Florida wins the game. And I was like, I probably should put a live bet in, but then I got distracted with something. And then by that time, it was too late. Did you get a chance to hedge out, or did you just kind of let it ride?
Yeah, a little bit, but not enough. It was kind of funny. A very good friend of mine is a college basketball ref, and he Division I and stuff, and he refs a lot of these big tournaments and all that. And when the game was starting to get a little away, it was like 12-point lead or 13-point lead, whatever it was at that moment. He goes, get ready for the fouls to start coming. He's like, they don't like games like this getting out of touch. And then I think it was like 8 straight possessions for Florida and 10 straight for Houston. Both got fouls. It's like they wanted to slow the game down, I guess. But what can you do?
Brutal last night with Houston choked that. Yeah, it was absolutely brutal. What are your thoughts on Mike Malone getting fired? A basketball question. Do you follow the association at all or not?
I do. I actually have the Knicks game on in the background right now. I mean, I don't know so much about the West. I kind of follow the East more, being a Knicks fan and whatnot. But it seemed like this year was a little chaotic with the whole Dallas Lakers trade, and it came out of nowhere like this. I mean, it seemed to kind of be a little crazy, and then it came out after that they were arguing, and the players were like in the culture and all that.
I guess, like, from what I've read and heard, and if they didn't win the title that year they won the title, he was going to be out.
Wow.
There was obviously dissension between him and Booth, and one of them, if they lost first round, was going to be out. But I guess they just elected to clean house and go with what they had. But doesn't it kind of speak about they have a lot of confidence in the players they have, the fact they would do this right now? You know what I mean? Like, if you didn't really have confidence in your team.
They're like, what, 3 seed or something?
I'm sorry?
They're about like the 3 seed right now or so, right? 4 seed?
They're the 4. They're the 4 right now.
Yeah, they could be 4 or 9, something I saw the other day. It's so tight.
But I mean, I think it kind of gives confidence to the squad they have that they can make a run if they get the dissension out of the room.
Yeah.
There's rumblings that Malone may be in line for the San Antonio job, which will probably be one of the most lucrative jobs this summer, with Pop obviously stepping back with his health concerns. But we are not here to talk about NBA. We are here to talk about some Masters. Now, what can you tell us? What is your thought process when you go into betting golf? I bet golf 3 times a year, and it's with you. That is it. When you come on the show, that's the only time I'm betting golf. I really had to open up the research books here to get some data, because you have a tons of data. You sent me insane emails with a lot of stuff in it. What is your thought process, and how do you go about looking to bet?
So the funny thing is, I've never played in my life, and everybody thinks it's like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about because you don't play. And it's like anything else. Like, if you want to learn about it, you can. So, I listen to a lot of different podcasts. A lot of the guys that have like Bet Spurts and Rick Run Good and Pat Mayo, they have some really good information out. Luckily for the Masters, the past couple of years have been pretty good. So I kind of have saved those models and made a little bit adjustments. And, so that's helped. But, I kind of adjusted every year. They change certain holes at Augusta. Like, they want to make it harder this year on a couple different holes. So yeah, I kind of go off what worked and amend what didn't.
One bet that really caught my eye is no hole in one at plus 160.
Yeah, it's funny. A buddy of mine likes, he bets anywhere from $5 to $10 on different little prop things. And he was sending me all those. And he's like, Albatross at 11 to 1. What does that mean? I'm like, that's like 2 shots on a par 5. I'm like, that's the worst bet. It's 11 to 1. I'm like, they're going to have to be hitting it 300 yards to the hole. I'm like,
yeah, that's insane. Do you think there's going to be a hole in one this tournament?
I mean, that's kind of like a random, outcome. It's hard to say yes or no. I would go with no if I had to pick.
But at plus 160, is that juicy enough odds for you to get involved in it? Or are you just kind of like, no, I need a little bit more. I need 2 to 1 or 1.
I mean, that's just typically not something I would bet.
Okay.
Well, I don't mind that at no.
Okay.
A lot of people don't like to bet no on things, as you know. They like to bet the overs and, guys to score points or this or that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like to bet unders and nos.
When I was doing this, I found out you can parlay people to make or miss the cut. Is that anything you've done before?
Yes, I don't mind the make the cut one. To miss the cut, in New York they don't have it, so I haven't done it too much. I mean, I've had opinions on guys that I didn't like that I've had friends put in and stuff, in other states and whatnot. I do think there's ways to like make it profitable. Like, you can get like a guy in the minus 4 to 500 range that you think is, logical. I think when I was looking at like Rory, Colin Morikawa, Aberg, and that like price range, they were all about that number. And then you can play them with somebody that's like, minus 150 or minus 110, which is usually a guy that's going to be like 150 to 1 or 100 to 1. So you can, find a way to take a guy that you think like, yeah, I think they could play good, but they're probably not going to win.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably not going to be in a top 20 bet I would make.
So let's jump right into it. You have a lot of bets, and I appreciate this. You're going to give the people a lot of information. My bets, I have 3. You have 3 times as many as I have. So let's jump right into it, my man. First bet.
Yeah, so I did 3 outrights for the first one. Rory, Henley, and Straka, and they all kind of fit in a similar bucket. The 2 main things I was looking at was the carry distance, or how far they drive the ball, and then the approach shots, and then tee to green. So how many shots they're taking from when they tee off to when they hit the green. You don't want to lose shots around here. You can score when you get the ball in play, but if you put it out of play or in the wrong area, you can really put up big numbers too. So they all kind of have that, consistent. They either like Rory drives the ball really well. He's pretty good on his approach, and he's really good tee to green. Same thing with Straka. He fits that same pattern. And then you have Henley, who doesn't drive the ball as far, but he fits the whole approach game, and he fits the tee to green game where he's not losing shots. I actually read something, he hadn't lost shots tee to green in about a year now. It'll be a year in like May or something.
Lose shots around here. What does that mean?
Lose shots tee to green. So like on average to the field, like say the field is averaging 4 shots from hole 1 when they tee off to get to the green, and it's a par 5, and they're averaging 5 shots.
Okay.
He's not like shooting 6 on that hole.
Okay. My first bet, and I went to the bet you hate, my friend, not to make the cut. Give me Fitzpatrick here, not to make the cut. Matt Fitzpatrick enters Augusta in poor form with 3 missed cuts in his last 5 starts, including back-to-back tournaments in which he missed it at the Players and the Texas Open. Slow out of the gate all season. He's been over par in the first round of all 7 PGA tournaments events that he's played in this year. The only bright spot was a top 22 finish at Bay Hill. Outside of that, very inconsistent. When you look at, just listen to these stats. These are strokes gained. Off the tee, he is 52nd, 0.2333, decent but not really elite. Approach to green, negative 0.48, 160th on the tour. To me, that's a major red flag heading into Augusta, where approach play is everything. You mentioned playing around the greens and everything. Negative 0.315, 157th on the tour, not scrambling well at all. Putting 93rd on the tour. He's struggling across all major strokes gains categories, and his weaknesses line up with what Augusta demands: strong iron play and short game. Recent form, bad fit on this course, plus the metrics. You know, I'm doing it. I know you're not a fan of this, but Matt Fitzpatrick not to make the cut at plus 130.
No, I don't hate that at all. You know, like you said, he's really struggled. And I can't figure out why. It's like every week's some different issue.
Yeah.
One week it's the putting, then it's the driving, then it's the approach. Like, so I don't hate that at all. He had that 1 year where he was in contention. I think it was the first year Scotty won the Masters.
Uh-huh.
He was in contention there, and then he won the U.S. Open. And ever since then, he's been like really bad in, you know, majors or elevated tournaments. So I like that.
Fred chimes in. Fritzy got a new caddy, I believe, but agreed he's been horrific this year so far. Next bet, my friend, you have some top 20s and some top 10s.
Yep. So the first one was top 10 for Joe Highsmith and top 20 for Joe Highsmith. He is going to be making his debut this year. So he's about in the middle of the pack, like in the 40 range on off the tee. And then on approach, he's right in the middle of the pack as well. He's about 30, but when you go from 150 to 200, he's top 10. He's also in the top 30 or 40 tee to green. So I think there's a lot of value on him. You know, he's a debutant, and they don't have great history here. So that's why I went with a top 10 and 20. They don't win. They've been in the mix. You know, like Aberg last year was second or third there. Mm-hmm. Then Tommy Fleetwood was the second one for a top 10. You know, he's just so consistent. Like last year, he was third. The year before that, 33rd, 14th. He's just always in the mix every week, big tournaments. But again, he doesn't find his way to the winner's circle. Mm-hmm. So like him there. And then the final one was Patrick Reed. You know, he's one that he just loves Augusta. Last year, you know, and even since he went to live, everybody was talking about how he can't win anymore and so forth. His last 5 Masters or 6. So he won in 2018. He was 36th, 10th, 8th, 35th, 4th, and 12th. So he just knows his way around here. And I think, you know, at that number, almost 2-1, I think that's really good value. Which again, when we played him to be the top live guy at 14-1, you know, he's going to have to hold off the likes of and Sergio and Bryson and Brooks, but he's playing well in live in 14-1. You know, you basically have a field of 10 guys or so. So I think that's a good price on that.
I am backing a live guy here. Give me Johnny Rahm at 14-1 plus 1400. Ninth start here at Augusta. He's never missed a cut. He won the green jacket in 2023. He has finished top 10 in all 5 live events this year. Obviously, no wins yet, but he's been very consistent. Top 45 last year. But when you look at what he did at the Olympics, at the Open, and the Spanish Open, top 10 in all those big tournaments. So I just think it was a bad tournament. Shody has the form that he's still elite. I don't know. Are you superstitious or not?
Depending on the situation, but he's played well in his. He hasn't finished just the live this year.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't finished out of the top 6. Starting back in February, 2nd, 6th, 6th, 5th, and this week 9th. At one point this week, I think he took the lead too, and then he kind of gave it away. But a lot of that is you could say he's looking forward to Augusta because he was so bad there last year. Not bad, but he was 40th or so. But by his standards, that was bad. He won the year previous.
And there's been no back-to-back winner forever.
Yeah, Tiger was the last one.
And there's so many responsibilities. You got to be there to hand out for the kids championship. You got to do the dinner that they run. And superstition wise, in 2023, Ram didn't arrive early to practice, and he won.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing this year. He's not arriving early to practice.
I will say, if there's a guy who could go back to back and doesn't feel pressure, it's probably Scotty. He's just so Texas chill.
Didn't he hurt himself making ravioli though?
Yeah, well, that was like Christmas. He's all good now.
I can't back anyone that hurts himself making ravioli, dude.
They actually made a joke today during his thing. They asked him about it. He's like, this guy made enough money. Why doesn't he get a cook? And Scotty he said something a lot of people would probably get mad at, with all the PC stuff these days. I do have a cook. Her name's Meredith. She's pretty good looking too. It's his wife.
One more thing though. I don't think there's that much attention on these live golfers. 14-1. I think he's a little bit underpriced. I think we're going to discount. He's a past winner. He's in good form entering the event. And I really don't think when you look at Scotty and Roy and Ron, I don't think he's under the same amount of pressure as those other guys. I think he's going to be in a good situation to make a little bit of noise. So I like him or not. Real quick, one thing I wanted to ask you. Hypothetically, you're in charge of the champions dinner. Lay it on me, man. What is it?
Definitely steak.
Okay.
A nice piece of Wagyu.
Okay.
The sides, you got to get some mac.
Okay.
Peppers and onions, that type of stuff. A nice Morton's Palm Steakhouse meal.
Okay. All right. Now this one I found interesting, my friend.
Yep. So it's 276.5 with plus money to the over. I think that equates to having a 69, a 69, 69, and 70 would be the win. You would win. So, like I was saying, they're making the course a lot tougher by making it longer. And then this week's going to be really fast and firm. It's going to be perfect weather the whole week, 80 degrees. So, you're not going to have the easy putting and stuff like the soft conditions they've had the past couple of years. So I think a lot of people will look at it and see, I think they won at 12 under, 13 under. A couple of years ago, I think Scotty was 17 under. So I think that's a good number on that, with the plus money.
Now, where did you find this? Because I looked for this one. I couldn't find it.
I found it on DraftKings.
Okay.
They do have it, you gotta, it's like anything else you do, when you're looking at a game, you might have +1 on Houston here, and you might have +2 somewhere else yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
One of those things you gotta kind of look around. Usually they come up closer to the tournament for big tournaments, like the Players and all the majors and whatnot.
Okay. My next bet, going to my boy. Give me Min Woo Lee +160 for a top 20 finish. 4th appearance at the Masters. And I was reading when I was doing my research that most of the people said they don't really understand the course and playing here until they've played it 3 times. So with
Yeah,
this being its 4th visit, I expect an uptick in what he can do. He finished
having a
top.
year.
I'm sorry.
No, he's having a very good year too.
He finished top 25 in 2 of his first 3 appearances here, already showing comfort with the course. His last 2 appearances, 14th place, average score of +2, coming off a win at the Texas Open. The Texas Children's Houston Open. Over his last 5 tournaments, made the cut 4 times, top 5 once, average -3 in tournaments. I think that holding off Scotty and winning Houston is going to give him some confidence. And I'm a stat guy. When you look at these stats, driving distance, 3rd on the tour, major advantage for Augusta, averaging 3.81 yards off the tee over his last 5. Strokes gained off the tee, 13th on the tour, 4th in strokes gained putting this year. 27.73 putts per round. That's 8th in the tour. Par break rate 25.85, 10th on the core. Or known for his shot shaping, his creativity. He's got touch around the greens. He's an elite putter. He can drive the ball. Those are all things you want to be successful here. I played him top 20. I also threw a little bit on him to win, full transparency, but top 20 was my main bet here.
Yeah, like I was telling you before we got on, he was one of the guys I played in the futures. I think I had him at Houston a couple weeks ago. I think it was might have been like during the middle of that tournament or something. I was liking what I saw out of him. And yeah, he was, his past 3 tournaments where he won that tournament. He was 20th at the Players, which is obviously, equivalent to a major. It's the highest purse of the year. He missed the cut at the Arnold Palmer, the one prior. Then he was 11th the week before that. So he's been in the top 23 the last 4 times we've seen him. And he has a good history here so far.
And I also like the fact his sister's in the LPGA and she's been talking shit to him from what I've read. So, there's that little sibling rivalry. Now we're going to shift our attention to DraftKings, and we're going to pull this up, and we are going to make a lineup for you. I don't know how you play, but for me, I am a single entry type of guy because I find out that's how I make my money. I go single entry stuff. So this is a single entry. They only offered a $25 for a single entry right now. So that is what we are doing. First player you want, my friend?
Rory.
You want Rory. Okay. I would kind of like my boy Min Woo Lee in, if that's cool with you.
Yeah. I kind of drafted up one here.
Okay.
That happened actually.
All right, let's hear the one you drafted up, my friend.
So I had Rory, Joe Highsmith, Min Woo Lee, Corey Connors, Patrick Reed, and Russell Henley.
Reed.
So it's a lot of the 8,500 or 7,000 to 8,500, and then one top heavy with Rory and one, more towards the bottom with Highsmith.
I got Highsmith, Reed. Who else?
Min Woo Lee.
Lee.
Corey Connors. Patrick Reed.
Yep.
And Henley.
Boom. Okay. Boom. This lineup's perfect. So we got McIlroy, Lee, Highsmith, Reed, Connors, and Henry going in here. Real quick, I'm just gonna throw out some names. Tell me if you like them, don't like them. DeChambeau.
Kind of neutral on him. He's playing well in Live, but I think he liked the softer conditions. He's a guy I definitely would look at for the U.S. Open and the PGA. In a couple weeks or a couple months. Sorry.
Next one, I am looking at the X-Man.
It was me and my friend were talking about him today. It was kind of weird to see him at 18-1. The past couple of years, I'd say all the majors, he was the strong third choice behind Scotty and Rory. So I just don't know what to do with him. I feel like I don't have any opposition if somebody wants to take him at 18-1. He would probably be a guy I would look at and see how he's playing the first couple holes or two, and go from there. There is like a trend where if you're outside of the top 10, basically, unless your name is Tiger Woods, you haven't won in the last 30. If you're outside of the top 10 after the first round. So, you might see him at 10th, 12th, 15th, and he might be worth a play if he's still around that number, because then you have like the good Xander.
Okay. Sugar Shane Lowry. He's been getting a lot of buzz. Like, I've been the stuff I read, a lot of people were hyping him up.
He always seems to play well here. But he's another one that, like, anytime it seems he's like in contention to win a big tournament. Like, yes, he's won his majors and stuff, but anytime he's there, it just seems like he like falls apart on the win side. Like, he's had a third here, he's had a couple top 20s in his majors. He's done, he's had a good history. Last year in the majors, he was like a 6th. I think at the Masters, he was 40th, 6th in the Open and the PGA. So, he's had a good major history. He won the Open Championship way back in is it like 2018, 2019? So, he does have a good history in the majors, but he just doesn't seem to finish.
And
that's why he's a good DraftKings guy, or, a top 10, top 20.
Matt, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come on, talk a little Masters and everything. Why don't you tell people where they can find you on social media? And if they want your golf bets, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I use Instagram more so than I would Twitter or any of that. But it's MPAPPPS. And you can feel free to message me there or whatnot. We're in that WhatsApp chat. So I know Dan's always adding people who like to bet different things. So I'm sure he'd be happy adding, some more members and whatnot.
Real quick, the question is, do you mind showing us Matt's picks? All right, this is what Matt is betting real quick. These are his 3 straight up bets that he has locked in.
And we'll also show you the matchups when I do the work on them. They came up about, half an hour or so before we were getting on, when they announced the tee times and all that.
And then he did these: Highsmith top 10, Fleetwood top 10, Highsmith top 20, Reed top 20, Reed top live player as well. I did Fitzpatrick to miss the cut. I also did Ron to win. Matt's last bet is the winning score over 260.5. And I did Min Woo Lee plus 160 at top 20. I'd like to thank everyone for coming on. I'd like to thank for coming on, joining the chat. I'd like to thank Matt. We'll be back here next week talking some MLB. Until then, best of luck in your bets. Best of luck to you. I'm sure you and I will be talking during the tournament, and hopefully you can cash, my friend.
Definitely. You as well.